Is Bohemian Black woman, there's Vincy Black woman, there's so many different Black women. Like, how can we all collectively say that it's one Black woman?
Like, how do you balance that that feeling of I need to rest, but I also need to produce? It's a real thing. It's a real struggle.
People need to have like serious conversations with themselves about how can I be helpful but not be a detriment to myself.
I see this person, they're doing such great things. It tells my mindset I can do that too.
I'm Teresa Lee Brown, and I am the founder of Professionelle House. And today we are so excited to have some special guests as we introduce another episode of Unapologetically Professionelle. And this episode is really for us to connect with some incredible women and talk about some very thought-provoking conversations. We're going to talk about things from community, personal, business, but we are really tapping into amplifying the things that we're thinking about that we're not necessarily saying. So today, I really want to start off by asking the infamous question, what does unapologetic mean to you? And I'm going to start with you, Sam.
I am Samantha Clark, and I think unapologetic is all about being who God called you to be and making sure that you honor that, whether it's bold, soft, it's really just about being who God wanted you to be. And the thing about God is that he made no mistakes. He made us all in his image. And I feel like instead of trying to be other people, we should honor who God intended us to be, unapologetically.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Lavinia Latham. And when I think of being unapologetic, I think of being me. So me, whatever that looks like, whether that's socially acceptable or not, whether that is good for the moment or not, just owning it. I mean, no one can be you, and there's no right or wrong way to be you, or in the case of this conversation, me. And so just leaning all the way into that has been my definition of being unapologetically me.
I love that. Hi, my name is Danica Nelson, and to me, being unapologetic means saying what I have to say with my whole chest, with, of course, no apologies. There's a balance there. There's discernment, there's manners, etc. But, being able to bring myself and my full self to every space without code switching, assimilating, etc. is me being unapologetically me.
My name is Vanessa Bowen, and for me, it's living in the fullness of who I am in every moment and in every season. I think I'm one person when I'm a mom, I'm one person when I'm a CEO, I'm one person when I'm a daughter, and it's in all of those facets or faces that I wear, but also in every season of life prior to motherhood. Now in motherhood, it's just owning who I am and what feels good and who, like you said, Sam, like who God has called me to be in that moment, because I think we're all evolving and we're all shifting into different beings throughout our seasons in life. And it's owning who you are in this present, not who you were in the past, not who you want to be tomorrow, but who you are right now today.
I love that. I love that we kind of centered the beginning of this conversation around God and and how important it is to follow the likeness of what he's created for us to be. So in true form, of course, we have this mystery bowl, and I have asked all of you to put some thought-provoking questions, unpopular opinion questions and thoughts in here. And this is what we are going to use as the driver of our conversation. So I'm going to pull out the first one today and see what that looks like. This is probably the fun part. Let's see. Wow. Okay. What is holding Black Canadian women back from supporting other Black women, like how American women support each other? Now that is a mic drop.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop in. I think there's like a shared collectiveness that's missing. we don't have a collective struggle as Black Canadian women, in the sense of like in the US, there's like that shared, we can touch slavery literally just happened yesterday. Like there are people whose grandparents were slaves and they can feel and touch it and they all have that shared experience. Whereas in Canada, it's like most Caribbean people who came here are immigrants. Most Black women who came here are immigrants or they were born into the Canadian environment. So I think that makes a difference in the sense that we all have these different understandings of what it means to be Black and what it means to be a Black woman at that. We don't even have the lexicon to use to discuss what the Black female Canadian experience is. Like, what is that? Like, I'm looking at us right now in this room and like there's just so many differences. There's Jamaican Black woman, there is Bahamian Black woman, there's Vincy Black woman. There's so many different Black women. Like, how can we all collectively say that it's one Black woman?
I think you're right. I think one of the differences to our sisters south of the border is that they've had generations to build community. So they've had time to really define what that looks like and show up for each other. So it's very easy. I mean, when I work in the States, it's like, I'm a Black woman and they're like, wow, you're great at what you do. Let me connect you with this person and that person and this person, because they understand the power of community. And so the support seems much more organic, right? Whereas to your point, we don't necessarily have that blueprint here because some of us are first generation Canadians and coming from different backgrounds. It's like we're still trying to navigate our way in a new environment.
I did feel like, so recently in August, you know how like they have Martha's Vineyard, there's this big thing, for those who don't know, where Black Americans, like the wealthy, people who have the funds then to be able to go over there can go. Anyways, I did notice that there was like a shared collective experience in being Black American. And there was like, you know, like, are you from an HBCU? Are you from, you know, are you connected to this particular like sorority or this collective? And, you know, one thing that I noticed was anything outside of Black American need not apply. So if you're coming in and you're saying like, I'm Black Canadian, or, you know, for me, I was like, yeah, my family's from St. Vincent. No one cares, literally. They ain't trying to hear that. Whereas over here, like, we hold our origins real near and dear. Like, it's like, I'm waving my Vincy flag, you know, you're waving your Jamaican flag. Like, people are very connected to their island before even talking about Canada.
That's true too. Yeah, you're very quick to adapt to the country you're from versus seeing yourself as a Black community as a whole.
That's exactly what it is. I kind of think of it almost like a funnel. Like when you look at Black Americans, it's like the top of the funnel almost looks the same as the bottom of the funnel. It's like, we're Black American, that's what it is. But when you talk to Black Canadians, it's like, yeah, you're Black, but where are you from? Like, where are your people from? Where do you hail from? And it's because we have so much of those like different communities, it's more difficult to kind of come together, I think.
Do you think that's what's watering down the sense of community for us?
Yes.
Well, but that's what Caravan is more for the West Indians. So it doesn't really tap into like the African community per se. It's excluding them, right?
Well, part of it is interesting. I've spent a lot of time on both sides of the border. I attended an HBCU. And I feel like there was definitely a sense of community among, you know, Black Americans. However, there's always something within human nature to try and, you know, one-up one another or differentiate from one another. So it's like we may, in the States, everyone may feel like, oh yeah, it's all kumbaya. But the reality is there are people who try to say, well, I don't, you know, do those things, or I'm not, you know, with that group. Like there's different ways that they separate from each other. So I just feel like one thing I've noticed is that they may not identify with, you know, the country that their parents or grandparents may have been born, but they will say, well, I attended an Ivy League school, you attended an HBCU, or, you know, so there's different ways. And I do see the division, but I will say for the Black, you know, entrepreneurs and like the people who are sort of pushing the needle in that way, they do tend to stick together and support one another. And I think it's beautiful, to be honest. And I think it's something that's missing here in Canada. And one thing I'm hoping for is that we can start to build bonds based on how we're similar. You know, there's so many things we all can relate to, and it's better to just focus on those instead of trying to like separate from each other, so to speak.
And how do we like change that? Because I feel, and I've had this conversation with a few of you individually, I feel like there's a division even amongst us culturally. You know, I feel like, prime example, this hurricane, right? Like it's like all the West Indians are kind of gravitating. But if I scroll through my Instagram, I'm not seeing anyone from like the African community really in Toronto, you know, showing that level of support or even really caring that, you know, that basically wiped out our country, you know?
I mean, it's a very layered, just a deep topic, because there are conflicts in Africa that are ongoing that a lot of us are even not by, you know, on purpose. Like I do feel like if we saw it on the news and it was prevalent, we would care more. But I feel like there's things that are happening that they would be like, well, you didn't care about, you know, Congo, you didn't care about. So it's just like a back and forth struggle. But I do feel like it's really just about humanity. You know, if one of us is hurting, then we all should care. We're all going to be hurting as a result. So, you know, not to point fingers, but it can go, I could see someone saying, well, y'all didn't care when, you know, such and such was happening. But the truth is we care. It's just some of us just didn't know.
And so maybe is it that more of like the relatability factor? So because we are centered around our community more, it makes it more of a relatable experience versus us not necessarily being centered around things that might be happening in Congo or other countries, etc. It kind of just goes over our head because we don't have the relatability. We're not there. We've never been there, so we don't understand.
I think so, unfortunately.
I also think there's like a division within the community. You know, I've spoken to like various members from different Caribbean islands, and when you talk to them about being African, West African specifically, where most of the slave ships came from, the conversation is, I am not African, I am insert Caribbean island, right? And I think that that rhetoric might be informing some of what we're seeing right now, right? I also think that there's perhaps a little bit of issue fatigue going on. Like there's always something happening. Like literally, there's always something happening. Like the world is literally on fire. And it's like, if you forever sit down in these issues, which I'm not saying you shouldn't, but if you do, it's like, how can you even move forward? You know what I mean? So, yeah, like, not to make excuses for any set of peoples or whatever's happening, but to your point, like if something is happening in Congo and it's like, oh, I hear crickets from the Caribbean. Well, something's happening in the Caribbean, I hear crickets from Congo, right? Is that the way to be? No, it's very divisive. And I do think that like some of that is very intentional too. Like we are meant to be divided so that we can't come together stronger together and collaborate and lift and grow and build an ecosystem of economies within what we have, which is a lot if you look at the Caribbean in addition to the continent of Africa.
Okay, so how do you feel, just to kind of elaborate on that more, how do you feel about the way that the support shows up between the two communities, if you will? So, I mean, the way that the Caribbean community shows up for each other versus the way that we visually see the African community show up for each other.
There's a lot of work to be done, I think. I mean, I like what I'm seeing right now just on Instagram, the little bird's eye view. But I think there's a lot to be done. Because like when I look at the Toronto economical ecosystem between like, I'm going to use Nigerians as an example because that's the closest example I have, right? There are certain prices that are only available if you're Nigerian, period, right? Like you're Nigerian, I got you. Anything else, yeah, the price is that, and it's way higher than the Nigerian price, right? But that's not just Nigerians that do that. That's South Asians. That's, you know, people from various other Asian countries. Like that's just community, period. And I don't see that as much within the Caribbean. Now, the piece of it is like we're comparing Nigeria as a country to the whole Caribbean. Like that's what I mean when I say we don't even have the lexicon for this. Like the Caribbean woman experience is very different than the Jamaican experience or the Vinci experience or the Trinidadian, Bahamian, whatever, right? So we're still trying to find that common ground to be able to even build, I think, that economical collaboration piece.
I think this, oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the solution, and of course this is probably an oversimplification, is we need to acknowledge our origin story. yes, some of us are from the Caribbean, our parents are from the Caribbean. We're talking about, folks who originate from Africa. We all come from the continent, and I think that when we look at it from that lens, that's how we can show up for each other more and how we can support each other more, because we're all from the same place at the beginning of the day.
Yes, I mean, I think we should be seeing each other as we're Black.
Yeah.
Regardless of where we come from. And again, to your point originally, the Americans, that's what they see. And we need to be able to see that. And I think that from there, it will become a domino effect. What were you going to say?
Yeah, like I agree with what you're saying there. It's like, to your point too, it's like, I feel like in Canada, it's like, it's so divided. Like, I'm Jamaican, Bermudian, Nigerian, and I think that's what keeps this domino effect happening. But I agree with you. It's like, unless we break down the walls, like, we're just Black. Like, that is it. Like, until we get to that, I think it's just going to continue to be this cycle. And I think obviously having conversations like this, like, we're all different here. Like, you know what I mean? Yes, we're all Black, but we're all from different countries. But when we come together as one, and that's what you're cultivating here, I think that's how we start to shift the narrative and shift the lens. But I think it's also this, like, it's unlearning what we've been taught. And I'll say even for me, like, I came to Canada at 18, and I just stayed here. And so for me, it's like, I've been here more than half of my life, but I don't feel Canadian, And I think though, when we talk about how it is in the States, I think if we can also just own, hey, this is our country. Like, this is where we live. Yes, we have heritage back wherever we are, but like, just own that, like, this is where we're building our legacies. This is where we're raising our families. I think it also changes the dynamic of how we see this country that we're building in.
Vanessa, I feel like something you said really resonated with me when you were like, what does it even mean to be Canadian? Yeah. Like, what does that mean? Like, I was born here, but I don't know what that means. Like, am I identifying with Brampton? Yeah. Like, I don't understand. What am I identifying with? Like, right. Yeah. Like, if somebody says, like, tell me where you're from, I'm not going to talk about Brampton. I'm talking about St. Vincent. That's way sexier.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I think that's what continues to create the division. Yeah. Like, where we don't have what they have in the States. We're not this collective thing, like this collective community of Black women rising and building together in this country. We're like, no, I'm here. Yes, we own that and we respect our heritage, but I think that's what we need to get to. It's like, let's just own and move forward.
All right, we're going to shift the conversation a little bit, and we're going to go with something that I feel like you're going to fall off your chair for. All right. How do we overcome perfectionism and let go of the crushing pressure of our Black clientele who seem to hold us to an unreasonable level of expectations? Therapy, definitely. That's difficult. I mean, that's difficult. As someone that 99.9% of my clients are Black. And I would say I am grateful to have a stellar client base. I have majority of my client base is, I think you can say this too, Sam, at a higher tax bracket. They're notables, they're celebrities, they're athletes, etc. So that transactional piece and the level of professionalism kind of marry in some regard. So I don't necessarily have to deal with the unreasonable expectations, but that's because I set boundaries in my business, But you do get those situations where you have someone that sends an email and is just like, how much does this cost? They don't ask you for a consultation. They don't ask you, what's included. They just want to know, hey, I want to hire you for full planning. How much is that? Right? And you have to ask yourself, would you ask a white business that? Is that how you would address them if you were asking for the same service?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at, some of us still eat McDonald's, right? Yes. They get your fries messed up. They're cold. Mm-hmm. Guess what? We go to another one. We don't look at them and say, I'm never going there again. So I feel like there's this idea that if it's Black owned, that maybe it's not, as good or as like the quality may not be, or the service may not be what it should be. And I hate that for us, because what happens for the business owner is that we overcompensate, and it's like the pressure feels insane, because you're just like, well, I can never be late. I can never be, a little bit behind schedule, or whatever the case may be. And I don't think it's fair. But one thing I like that you just said was that you have to set boundaries. You have to be real with your clients and let them know, like, I'm actually a human being. After 6 p.m., I'm no longer available, or whatever that looks like in your business. But setting boundaries, I think, is the key. And I think giving people grace, letting people be human, and make mistakes and not quit on them altogether, but just, like, give them grace. But I will say there are some bad apples, not gonna lie. There are some, people not operating in excellence, and I hope that starts to change.
I feel like, so I'm going to speak to a couple of experiences that I've had with people. And it's actually, I'm being real, it's annoying, right? It's extremely, it's irritating, because it's like, I'm trying to operate in a way that feels comfortable for you as the user, right? So like, what I don't want in my practice, and when I say practice, I am a lawyer, so I do understand that law can feel very out of reach, and it can feel cold, and it can feel like, your lawyer doesn't care. I'm not trying to be that. That's not me. Like, I'm real, I'm passionate, I'm here, right? I feel like when leaning into that, some people take that as that means unprofessional. So just thinking back on a couple of situations where I kind of departed from that cold feeling, where it's like someone's calling you, and like, instead of me picking up the phone, which I can, instead of picking up the phone and talking to them, I am now feeling like I need to automatically send it over to admin, right? Whereas the old me would have been picking up the phone and kiki, whatever, connect, create that, that bond, and then move into it. I'm noticing that within our community, people don't like that. They take that friendliness and that kind of like, familiarity as being unprofessional. So, no one has said that to me, but what I've noticed is that it does up the ante on the likelihood for someone to now start making complaints, right? To you, and saying like, oh, this isn't how it should be. You should have responded sooner. I didn't like the fact that you leaned into an accent, all these kinds of things, right? So now it's like my analytical brain is like, okay, stop doing that. Lean back into coldness. So it's almost like, if you are not being as close to white as possible in certain spaces, people deem that as being unprofessional. And it's like, hold on, when did our culture and our community become unprofessional? Why is me being, again, back to unapologetic, why is me being unapologetically Caribbean Canadian, which is, perfect, or the Queen's English sometimes, and then at other times it's like jumping into whatever accent your family's from, why does that feel unprofessional to you, right? And I do think it comes back to like racism and oppression and, white is right and Eurocentrism and all those things. But anyways, to your point, I think that like the boundaries has helped a lot. So if the phone rings, I don't answer anymore. If we don't have an appointment, I'm not talking. If you haven't paid your consultation fee, I'm not listening to your legal issue. Because number one, it's going to open up this no boundary relationship. And number two, we are activating my Law Pro insurance for a relationship that is not even solicitor-client relationship. So, that's a very legalese type of response, but I think it applies to everything in the sense, like, if it's not a perfect, contractual conversation, I feel like as a Black female business owner, lean into just exactly what it is and the boundaries, and that's it.
How do you feel about, as a business owner, when you see on social media other businesses that are Black owned or other like clients, etc., complaining or heightening a situation online? Prime example, you're saying McDonald's. How many times do we get like stale fries or cold fries? Well, then we circle back next week and we're getting fries with the sweet and sour sauce on the side, right? But when you scroll through your Instagram and you're actually seeing another Black person attack another Black person by way of business and amplifying it, when that could have been just an email, and that they probably wouldn't have done that if it wasn't a Black person, right? What are your thoughts about that?
I am very mindful of ever complaining about another Black business in a public forum, because I know the things that we have to go through. I'm very mindful of, like you said, just taking it to email, just being respectful and trying to not blow it up in a way that, gets more attention than it needs to, because we already go through so much. It's already so challenging to run a business, especially like a Black-owned woman business. All of the trials and tribulations we have to go through on a daily basis. Let's just be professional here and try to, take things offline when possible. Don't get me wrong though, some people do deserve it. Some people, it doesn't mean me to do it. But some people do deserve to be dragged in public. Sometimes.
Dragged.
But I think when we pander into that and blast on someone on social media, then not saying we do it, but whoever is doing that, reinforces this narrative of Black people. And that's when it continues, and that Black people are like this, and da-da-da-da, and that's, yes, fine, someone wronged you, whatever, but I think people need to realize it's like, you're the face of Black people when you do that. Like, you're not just outing that person and making yourself have all these people view your content, you're also reinforcing the narrative of what people think of how Black people behave. And going back to like boundaries, I think we all need to create this own higher level of integrity, higher level of professionalism for ourselves. And I think the more that we can do that, the more it shifts the narrative of how people envision and see Black people. But yeah, like I never, for me, I don't care if it's a Black, white, Asian business. If you wrong me, I'm not gonna put this on social. I will never, like that degrades my integrity. Yes. And I have worked so hard to put my reputation and build my reputation. I will never do that because, yes, great, everyone looks at that business and that business suffers or whatever, but that's a reflection of me. Yes, your character. Exactly, my character. And so for me, it's more than just, let's go like shout out another Black business. It's, well, who the person who's doing that, who are you? Like, what is your level of character and integrity?
Yeah, 1,000% agree. I would never put anyone on blast on social media.
I can't sleep at night if I do that.
This conversation, and we're not naming names, but it reminds me of a really public like takedown of a hair care company that people were making YouTube videos, people were making Instagram videos.
Black people were doing that to her. Yeah.
And I was so aggrieved by it that I literally made my own YouTube video saying stop. Just stop, because like we don't do this for the Walmarts. We don't do this, like you said, for the McDonald's. We don't do it, and it's like, right, like the fries be tasting dirty on a good day. We don't do it.
We keep going back. We give them grace, so it doesn't really make sense why we want to drag each other.
But then it almost became like a campaign to like, it's like, how dare you Black business be successful? We're gonna rip you down. Right. And I'm like, no.
Like you're too successful. Let me bring you down a notch. And it's really unfair.
What's unfortunate though is the algorithm rewards that.
Yes.
Right. And that's why people keep posting it.
It's why people do it. Like as a content creator, anytime I have something that's like negative, even if it's not like dragging someone else, that's when I'm getting the tons of views, the tons of DMs, the tons of shares. I can create a video on here's how you invest in the stock market. Crickets.
Yeah, of course.
We don't want
Literally.
Yeah, it's too positive.
They don't want things to better themselves. They want the messy, I wonder who it is. Oh, girl, did you see? And it's really unfortunate when it's us against us. We should be lifting each other up.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of take it off topic for 1 second, when we're talking about us against us and all of that, one thing I will not do ever, and I've said this to you, is engage in a conversation about my people, Black people, negatively with another race. But what happens is that it's almost embarrassing when another race notices our flaws and calls us out on it, because prime example, my summit. I had one, as you know, earlier this year. And being in the hospitality and the event industry, obviously I work with different vendors. We're not the florists, we're not the decor companies, right? So I have to partner with other communities, right? And I'm not willing to compromise quality necessarily for my clients, yada, yada, yada. But that relationship that I have built with some of these vendors have allowed them to feel comfortable to talk to me, right? And I remember specifically after the summit, one of my vendor friends, was talking to me and saying, it was so great. Thanks for involving us, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, can I say something? And I'm like, oh God, here we go. And I'm like, what, where are you going with this? And she was like, I noticed that in the event world, you are not the only event planner, but you are like the go-to event planner. A lot of people roll through your company, right? Where is the rest of the Black event community? Why are they not showing up for you? We see Samantha, she shoots all the things, but why are we not seeing the other stellar, quote unquote, vendors showing up for you? And like, what do you say in that moment? Because that is a situation of us versus us, right? But it's almost embarrassing, disheartening when the other communities are noticing the dysfunction. Because what do you say at that point?
There's nothing you can say.
Really?
But I also feel, and like perhaps this is me being like, very entrenched in human rights and anti-Black racism. I feel like this is very intentional. Like us not supporting us, having issues with us, and then having these broader conversations externally, those same communities that are coming to us and saying, hey, how come you guys aren't doing this? You planted that mind frame, right? So like you created a flush environment to have that type of dysfunction. So what gives you the right to create the dysfunction and now say, why are you dysfunctional? Like, that's a foolish question, right?
I'll be sure to give that answer the next time. All right. Let's soften things a little bit. Next question. Is it time for Black women to finally relax?
Yes. Sorry.
Absolutely. But what does relax mean? Is that, self-care, more rest, less feeling like we have to prove something to the world? Like, I'm curious, what
I'm going to say the latter. I'm going to say probably the latter. Us having to prove ourselves.
I think so. I think it's time for us to like do the spas and, get the massages and relax, let other people take care of us for once. I think that's a good place to be.
I agree. And I would say that, rest also goes like, I think the spas and that stuff is great, but it also goes like beyond that. It's us telling ourselves that it's okay to stop over delivering, to stop feeling like we need to be overachievers in order to just be, relevant in this world. Stop feeling like we need to be like overproductive to be valuable. I think it goes beyond us just having like spa days here or there. I think it's really time for us to take a step back and really think about these notions that I have of what I need to produce and what I need to do to be successful. Whose ideas of success are those? Are they even mine to begin with? Or did society tell me that I need to do this thing to be successful? Did society tell me that I have to, work my full-time job and then have a side hustle in order to just be relevant in this world? I think that, rest and relaxation goes beyond just the more superficial stuff. And it's taking a step back to really take a look at our lives and see, does it really align with our values and what we truly believe in?
What if you're afraid to rest? I'm afraid to rest because I see that as a failure. I feel like I'm letting down my community by doing that. I feel like I am carrying this torch that's really heavy. And some days I break down, Sam knows, right? And some days I'm like, I'm gonna do this because I got it, right? And so I feel like when I rest, even in a superficial sense, or even in the point of what you're saying, I feel like I'm letting people down. I feel guilty. And I also worry about being dragged. I worry about the fact that, okay, if I do take 2 weeks off, or if I do certain things, am I not showing up for my community or my family, in a certain way, a certain form? Truthfully, even with this hurricane, like I didn't know what to do. I knew I wanted to do something. It's in my heart to do it. But then a part of me was feeling like an overwhelming response. Like I can't stop to think. I need to go into action because what if I don't go into action? The other communities are doing it. I'm going to miss the mark. I might be shown that I'm like too slow. I'm not. So I respectfully disagree and feel like I can't rest.
And I totally understand that. That's also something that I've experienced. And unfortunately, what I've learned is if we don't choose a time to rest proactively, our bodies will choose for us. And what that also means, unfortunately, is if we're too sick because we didn't choose to rest, we can't show up for our communities the way that, you've just said. Like, once I went through a period of severe burnout, that I developed an allergy to the sun. Did you know that was a thing? You can develop autoimmune conditions when you don't rest and you continue to push through burnout. That random things happen to you, like you develop an allergy to the sun.
I mean, even going as far as having like a stroke, literally, like the stress that we carry can lead to physical, harm and sickness. So it's not just, doing the cute fun things, but it's actually, it can lead to chronic illness. And when you put it like that, it makes it more real that we have to take it seriously, that we need to rest. And one thing I know from just my own experience is, like, when we look at the women in our lives, I know for me, it's strong women. Like, these women, I don't remember them resting. Like, I'm like, did they ever stop? No, they're always doing something, cleaning, cooking, picking someone up, dropping me off, doing all the things. So I'm like, well, that's the example. So that's what I'm striving for. But then I realized, okay, wait, it's not sustainable. And I admire the women that set that example in my life, but I'm also aware that in this day and age, there's going to be a time where if I don't rest, like you said, it's just it catches up to us, the food that we're eating is not always the healthiest. And, like, we have to make sure we're putting good food in our bodies. We have to make sure we're exercising. We have to make sure we're getting sun if we're not allergic to it. And, like, all these things are important. But I actually do relate to what you said, Teresa. I do feel like that moment where you're like, okay, I'm finally going to rest. It's like, oh my gosh, I have all these emails, and what are my clients going to think? They're going to, they're going to think I'm falling off or whatever the case may be. And so it's like, how do you balance that, that feeling of I need to rest, but I also need to produce? It's a real thing. It's a real struggle.
It is a struggle. And I think I would say, going to your point first, and I agree with you that you have to rest. Like, I don't feel that God places these, because we start off with God, right? Today. And we talked about what does it mean to be unapologetic. I don't think God places these dreams in our hearts to run us to the ground. And I say that from experience because I've been having this conversation with God all year, because I feel like I've been on this go, 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 go. Like, I'm just like, I'm constantly going. And I literally had this conversation with God. Well, I'm still having it. I'm just like, God, like, do you really want me to, like, burn myself to the ground? Like, do you really want me to work this hard and, like, work myself to death? And the answer is always no. Like, the answer is always no, but I have to choose. Do I keep going and send the email and do whatever, or do I honor rest? And I do feel like if we don't pour into ourselves, we're not actually fully living in the mission and the vision that God gives us, because we can't. We can't keep going if our body tells us to stop. And we can't keep pouring out if we're already empty. We know that. And so I do think we have to find the balance and create that for ourselves, and know this is how I get through this. Is I tell myself that if I rest, I know God's going to bless my rest. And so if I don't send the email, if I take that day off, which you and I talked about, and I'll get to that in a minute, if I take that day off, I'm like, God, someone's going to come into my inbox. God, someone's going to say my name in a room that I'm not in, and it's going to come to me because I'm honoring this mission and this vision, but I'm also honoring my body and how I feel. And to your point of how do we create it, I think it goes back to what you and I were talking about on the break. We have to be intentional with how we schedule our life. And one of the things Sam and I were talking about is like, well, how do we do that? How do we have this time of no interruptions and just work on the business instead of in the business? And I was saying to her, well, last Friday I dropped Ari off, and I was like, I just need a quiet day. So I found a hotel, booked that hotel room, and went into that hotel room and just had that time for myself. And it was business stuff, but it was just having that time and space to pour into me and pour into my business. And so I think it's us finding these intentional times, whether it is a day, a week, but realizing that God will bless our rest and having that faith and belief in that.
I also think it's important to have like that as a part of your habits, right? Yeah. So like, we shouldn't get ourselves to the point where we need a full day to just like do nothing and hear nothing. And I'm saying this from a place of like experience. Like I definitely am that person who's like, I'm going to sleep for 4 hours so that I can study some more, so that I can, do more, burn the candle, both ends of the stick, going to bed at 2 a.m., waking up at like 5, right?
That's me on a regular.
Right. And that's
and checking myself out of the hospital when I passed out and hit the wall and crashed through it.
This is so unhealthy. But like, this is the thing, right? This is so unhealthy. And the thing is like, if we're not here, then we can't serve anybody. Like literally, like I remember November 2020, I lost vision in one eye, like full central vision was gone in one eye. And that was a symptom of being stressed out. It's no coincidence that I spent the last 2-3 years just burning the candle at both ends of the stick. The board, like there was a lot going on at the school board, and like just life was lifing, and then what do you call it there? The pandemic, right? Like it was just a lot. And that intentional rest, meaning like I am going to slow down at 10 o'clock at night. Even if I'm not sleeping, I'm slowing down. Like I'm not doing anything else after 10. Even Sundays, like I had to put it in my calendar, day of rest, whatever that means. Like it's so healthy because then you don't need to like, feel like you're dying to get to your next vacation, or you're dying to get to the spa. So
To set that, like one of the things I do is the last Friday of every month is a me day. The last Friday, no matter what, it's just for me. And you're right, like we have to intentionally put that into our schedule and honor it.
No, you know what? It's funny because like after that day of rest, in the calendar, the Monday I am so productive. It's like I'm on fire and I'm excited to be on fire. So it's like I think it's like there's a power in resting and like starting up again.
These questions are so good. Thank you for sharing the calendar piece and just kind of recentering me back to the thought of God. As much as I get up every day, read my Bible, do my devotion and all of that, I just get into it. It's actually right next to my computer, so I'm like, okay, all right, journal. Okay. And then I get into it, you know what I mean? And so just kind of reminding me to slow down because I know it's not healthy. But like I said earlier, I have the weight of what I feel is a community on my back. So I feel like if I am not performing, and I know there's some of you that are in this room right now that I'm not looking at that are going to remind me to do that and do remind me to do that. But the reality is I just feel like I can't, And so I think this conversation was really helpful in just kind of restoring and recentering myself back to that.
I'm going to ask you if you're resting now.
Add you to the list of people that are I don't even know which one to ask. There are so many good questions. Okay. How much should your husband support you if you're the breadwinner and a mom and an entrepreneur? So, I mean, I guess I'll talk. I'm not the breadwinner. I mean, my husband is doing very, very well. So I think we're kind of equal in a way, but I think it's just having that conversation with your spouse and letting them know the areas in which you are needing help and support in. I think my husband particularly is an anomaly. He is very involved in my businesses. Even though he's not a part of my business, he's not a co-owner. He's not like invested in that way. He's invested in seeing me be successful. And I don't actually have to tell him. He just kind of like, okay, we're doing something. I'm going to help do this. You know what I mean? But he also is a senior level executive at his company. So he has his own set of commitments for the business that he works for. But I think it just boils down to having that conversation, He also can read me. He knows when I'm super stressed. He's the one that's picking me up when I passed out and calling 911. You know what I mean? So he realized that at some point, he has to step in because he's realizing his wife isn't slowing down, right? So I guess it just is communication, balance, and I picked a good one. Sorry, I'm not saying about anybody else. Or he picked me. But I think that just communication is so critical. And just trying to find ways to involve them, in your business. I think that makes it fun. Sometimes we, our professional house, we finish cleaning and all of that. And he's like, let's go for dinner, or let's go to a movie or, stuff like that. Or let's just watch a movie here, right? So I think it's just trying to find creative ways to intersect the marriage and your business. So it doesn't feel like, there was a point that I made a little more money than he did. But I didn't make him feel any less of a man for that, So I think it's just about that communication piece, really.
That's the biggest piece, like that respect factor, because like I think putting emphasis on you don't deserve respect if you don't bring in money is like a big deal. I will say like my husband has like we've either been the same or he's been the breadwinner, but it didn't matter. Like there was never a point where he was like, or I was like, oh, we're the same, you better top up, or you know what I mean? or anything like that. I think it really is a partnership, and I think it's important that you love each other. You as friends first, even, Like I actually, like, aside from loving Carl, like, I like him as a person. Like, he's my friend. He's my best friend. Like, if we weren't lovers, we'd be friends, I think that makes a difference.
No, but it's so true. And like, if you look at it as, we're a team. So everything that you bring in or that I bring in is being put together for us to be, happy, successful, and fulfilled. And I think when you look at it from that lens, it's not like me against you. It's not a competition. You're on the same team. And, it's like, how can I serve you? Like, or and vice versa. So like in my household, my husband is like, I'm gonna be the stable, 9-to-5er, so to speak, so that you can dream and you can go farther. And, he wants to see me flourish. And I feel like that is more than I could ever ask for, and people don't even have that. Exactly. And so it's really just about looking at it as, you being a team, and serving one another. That I feel like that's what marriage really is. It's like, how can I serve? And then hopefully, what you put in, you'll eventually reap and get back in return.
I think also, sorry, go ahead. I think for me too, it was never about the money. I've been with Kevin for 25 years. So 25 years ago, we were not making the money that we're making now. So, whatever $7, $8 an hour we were making 25 years ago, it was like about putting our money together and to try to make life, right? And my stipulation was always kind of just like, you need to go work. I don't care how much money you're making, but you need to make sure you're getting up and going to work every day. You know what I mean? And not that I had to tell him that, but it's like, that was my requirement. You know what I mean? It wasn't like my requirement is you make $150,000. My requirement is get up every day and figure out a way to provide for us, wherever that is, at McDonald's, at the warehouse, at the wherever. And so I think because we've been together for so long and we started off like with nothing, it's like the foundation of our marriage was not centered around money. And so we were able to really figure out ways to be friends, enjoy each other, and do things when and not centered around the money. Yeah.
I agree. I think that's where, like, it has to be based on where the foundation starts. And I love what you said about, it's us being a team, but also like, what's that shared vision? I think one of the things Marcus and I do a lot is like, we talk about what's the vision. We call it the Bowen Empire, but like, what's the vision for the Bowen Empire? Yeah, you got it. We actually have this, it's just like a grounding question that we ask ourselves, like, will this make the Bowen Empire move forward? And we ask ourselves that with anything. It's like, okay, you got to do pickup. I got to have a client meeting. Okay, so will this make the Bowen Empire move forward? Yes. Okay, I'm going to go here. You're going to do this. Or, you know what I mean? It's not just a matter of, you go build your business and you do this. It's, okay, will this collectively move our vision and this empire forward? And then some days, like today, like, literally, I had an event before this. He came to do the recording for it, left Aria with my mom. Now he's back with Aria. So it's like, okay, he's taking care of all the household stuff, the laundry, the dishes, the this, the that. Well, I get to do this. And it's going to be different next weekend. And so it's really asking, what do we need to do as a team to create this vision and move this vision forward.
Yeah, I would also say, I mean, I'm not married yet, so I'll say what I.
But if you need a planner or photographer,
I have lots of good advice.
Vibes and energy.
Yes, so much good energy. I would say that there's no one size fits all answer to this question, right? Like every relationship is going to look different. And from my perspective, one of the most important things is having conversations like early on what to expect. Like similar to what you said, like 25 years ago, like I don't care how you do it, but you're going to go to work every day. I think going into the relationship, the marriage, etc., like we need to know that we're on the same page before we move forward so that we can, continue to grow and build together. And also, I would say that if at any point one partner is, feeling like something is off, you need to create an environment where we feel comfortable talking about these things and addressing these things, whether that means doing it just together, whether that means going to couples therapy, whether that means like my partner and I, we have money dates. So we'll sit down like every month, we'll look at our finances, see what's working, see what's not. Like those are really important things to keep the finances good in a relationship.
yes, completely agree.
Love it.
Okay, how do you feel about the Black immigrant tax? Do you feel obligated to financially support your family abroad? For those that might be applicable to.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes.
Oh, I was. Can I speak? It's difficult because like I am first, I guess, generation Canadian. I'm from a household where my father immigrated to Canada and emigrated back out. Right? Like, yeah, he was like, I don't like the situation in Canada. Like, I'm trying to build a business and I'm experiencing a lot of racism, oppression. That's a whole story in and of itself. But essentially, he was like, I'm going back to St. Vincent, and he stayed there ever since. So, I mean, when I look at my family, though, most of them are here. But when I talk to my friends who have family back in the islands, yes, there is a very strong need to like give back and send barrels. And like whether or not there's a hurricane or a natural disaster going on, there's a need inherently to be like, well, we're in foreign, so we have to help back home. We have to give money back home. So, I mean, while I don't personally feel it because my dad is doing well in St. Vincent, and I think he kind of does a lot of the doing that from where he's at, that standpoint, I can see it. Like, I think that conversation is rare, not the norm. Most people I know are sending money back regularly or whatever to help out. So, I mean, there's that. But like, yeah, with natural disaster, like even with the volcano that hit us last year in St. Vincent, the outpouring, like it was just a no-brainer, send. And like, I don't have to be from Jamaica to feel the same no-brainer, send, right? So yeah, like I think that it's just ingrained.
Yeah, I think it's just like sending that elevator back down, if you will, right? And the cost of living is vastly different than it is here. So what we could do with $1,000 here might be like nothing, not even rent. $1,000 can go a long way back home, right? So I think maybe that's where some of that obligation comes in. Again, I can't speak for some of the other islands because I'm not familiar with the cost of living there. But in Jamaica specifically, I mean, $1,000 can really do a lot for somebody compared to what it would do for us here.
Yeah, I'd say similar to you, like I haven't experienced this a lot personally, but I have spoken to a lot of folks, specifically in the Caribbean community, who feel like they cannot build their own lives and contribute to their own investment accounts or, be able to buy their own homes because of this continuous support that they're sending back home. And we're not talking about like, a couple $100s. We're talking about like large chunks of their paycheck on a biweekly basis. And it's preventing them from being able to build for themselves and pour into their own families. So from
Conversation needs to be had because that's that's expensive.
That's expensive. Yeah.
I had a public like story share on Instagram where people were contributing to this, and I was shocked by the amount of people who are still living with their parents because they have to support their parents or because they're sending money back home just for their people back home to be able to survive. I think that it's really about like balance and like being realistic. Like how much can you support people, which I think is important because like you said, our money will go a lot further in a lot of these countries than they will here, but how much can you support and not be a detriment to yourself?
Yes. Right.
And I think some people are having, some cognitive dissonance or just challenging thoughts on like, okay, but like I want to be generous, but oh, this is not looking good for me. People need to have like serious conversations with themselves about how can I be helpful, but not be a detriment to myself.
Yeah. because you can't help if you're broke.
Right. Say it again, girl. Say it again.
You can't. And I do feel like even if you don't have to send money back to an island, that some people do feel that they want to help their aging parents or, you know, just people here, you know, with you in Canada. So no matter how you look at it, I do feel like there should be, you know, it's hard to say it, but boundaries, even with family. At the end of the day, you know, the people in your household, your husband, your partner, your children are your first priority. Absolutely. So you shouldn't go hungry. Your family shouldn't go hungry because you're trying to help people, you know, who are adults. You know, a lot of times they're adults and, you know, maybe they don't need the iPhone 17 this year, like off your paycheck, you know, like, I'm sorry. I don't even have an iPhone 17, you know, like, come on now. So I mean, I love the idea of helping, but there should be a limit and a boundary, and you just let them know, like, I cannot do it this month or next month, because things are expensive and foreign too. Let's just be honest and real. So
I feel like sometimes you have that guilt of wanting to help, let's say, aging parents, because they sacrifice so much for us, and they're very good at making you feel the way, you know, because I've gotten the, oh, must be nice to have money all the time, or must be nice to be driving, or must be nice to be married. Those are the choices I made that I wanted to make for the better of myself. And I had to sacrifice to achieve these things. You should have done that. It's not my fault that you didn't do that. I can help you when I can, but I'm not going to go broke doing it.
So can like, I have a question. How do you feel and how do you operate in situations where someone's asking you for money to fuel some more bad decisions? So it's like, I know why you're here. Like, you don't do anything productive in life, right? Like, nothing. But you're always needing, like a forever needer. Like, how do you deal with them?
No. That's a no. And I'm not afraid to tell them, like, listen, you have done this, this, and this, and I'm not giving you any more money.
Girl, people get vexed for that.
That's good. I'm the one that they can challenge on that, because I will fire back. Yeah, sometimes you need to tell people the truth, right?
And you just become an enabler. That's the thing. Exactly. Like, I say this all the time, like, if I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but if you're constantly giving money to someone that doesn't even know how to manage that money, like, you're literally just enabling them to do the same dumb crap and continue to be in a cycle of broke. If you don't give them the money, they have to figure out a way to make the money. Like, that's how you empower them. Oh no, I don't mind. Oh, I'm happy. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt me. No.
But then you have to know the limits, though. You have to know the limits. Like, if somebody comes to you and says, like, hey, I'm short on my rent, or I need to pay a bill, my lights are going to give me the account number then. Exactly. And I will make the payment for you.
Suppose you know they're in that situation because they were buying clothes or buying alcohol.
They're going to have to learn. Then they have to figure it out. Now, there are situations where you can be like, okay, I'm going to help. Obviously, natural disaster, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. But every month, these bills are recurring. So I'm going to take care of it this month, and what about next month?
I'm sorry. I'm not sending money to anybody monthly. Absolutely not. Other than my bank account or my savings or my investments. I am not paying to manage somebody else's life. When I'm out here passing out and crashing through walls, and my husband's reminding me, you see that hole in the wall there? That's because you work too much. I'm not going to close it until you learn to slow down. You know what I mean? They're not putting in the time when I'm like, okay, let me take a nap. Let me get up at 2 a.m. Let me write that pitch because it's due at 6 a.m. And so, no, absolutely not. Christmas time, or I'm going to, Jamaica for the summer, but the kids are going and I want to send a barrel. I send extra for their kids, but I am not obligated to help them at all, other than, as you said, these natural disaster type situations.
I wish a lot of people had your mindset, because a lot of people are not that strong in their boundaries, and that's why they're in the financial situations that they're in.
Yeah. There's a lot of guilt that goes, like, I think people manipulate, especially like a parent-child, or like, just there's dynamics within families that, end up making you feel like you owe them. And there's like this idea of survivor's guilt too. It's like, well, I made it, I survived. No, I'm not talking about me, but I'm just saying that's what I heard. Yeah. And then I feel like in our community specifically, this is something I've talked to you about. I say, okay, let's go deeper. It's not that, Black people don't want to support Black people. It's like we can't sometimes. It's like we don't even have, they say lace up your bootstraps. We don't even have boots, some of us, right? So it's like when you look at the numbers of people who are living in poverty, it's a lot of Black families who are living in poverty or just above the poverty line. So how do you expect, that type of, or, if you're looking for monetary support, or some people are like, I can just give you time. I don't have cash. I'm literally just scraping by. They won't tell you this because a lot of people are very proud. They don't want to say it. But, why aren't we supporting each other? Sometimes because we can't. We just don't have the, financial resources, unfortunately. And we're all, just trying to like get by. We look good. Black people, we're going to put that on. We're going to put it on. We're going to look good. But, some people are struggling. So
some people are also lazy. Yeah. And they don't want to help themselves. Like I know particularly people in my family that I have tried to help and they're like, yeah, I'm not cut out for this work or I can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to like just give you the money. You got to work for it. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, you can braid hair. Why don't you start braiding? I will help you get the business cards from Vistaprint. I will help you do a little landing page, and it might not be much, but you can start doing it and charging people $100 and that will help you. I've even said, hey, you know what? You can clean. I know hundreds of business owners. I can sell you 10 clients right now and I'll give you the money for the mop and the broom. And they're like my back, my neck, my side, my this. So then you're in a situation. That's not my problem.
You tried.
I think for me, it's the conflict that comes from those conversations, right?
You know me. I'm just like you.
I don't want the smoke.
No, I don't want the smoke. I'm like, all right.
I am the smoke. Okay, I know we have to wrap this up, but I want to end with one question that I feel is going to end us off well. How do you feel, let's be honest here, about being envious of someone else's success? And envious might not be the word, but let's be honest. We all have looked at people that are doing something similar to what we do, and you're like, damn, I didn't get there yet. Or like, how did they get that and I didn't get it? Or you tried it and it didn't work for you, but it worked for them.
I think your point about envious maybe not being the right word is correct, because envy more so means like you don't even want them to have it.
Yes, so no.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, I think jealousy is a normal human feeling, especially if we haven't accomplished a goal as quickly as we would have liked and we see it working out for someone else. I think that's a normal human feeling and I'm okay with that. I think that it's also just important to, have those like conversations with myself and be honest with myself that everyone's timelines don't look the same. Right. We all have to go through things through a different route, and what's for you will always be for you, and just, be reminded of that.
I feel like I learned really early that, so of course I've experienced jealousy before, very early, like early 20s or so, not to age myself, but what I learned from that is like, it's not the being jealous that's productive. Like I'm all about productivity. It's about, okay, this person's doing this, or this seems to be working. How can I change my methods to be more successful for me? And then I think the biggest change mindset wise, why I don't feel jealousy very often anymore, is because I'm only competing with myself. So like, as long as I'm better than Lavinia yesterday, I'm cool. Like, I don't really care what the, Oprahs or Beyoncés or whoever's of this world are doing, because I know that I'm better than yesterday. So like, that's helped a lot, and it kind of nips it in the bud before it even arises, But I think it's a natural thing too. Like, I don't want to say that to be like, oh, it's not natural. I do think it's a natural thing.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think it's absolutely natural. But I agree from a mindset perspective. What helped me when I was learning about I know I'm going to go into subconscious mind, don't mind me. But when I was learning about our subconscious mind, your subconscious mind doesn't know when you're thinking about someone else. So when you're looking at someone and you're like, oh, they got there, I'm not there, like you're just projecting all of that crap back to you. And so that helped me to shift, be like, okay, I see this person, they're doing such great things. It tells my mindset I can do that too. Right. And so that's how I always shift the lens. I'm like, okay, they're doing that. Good. might not be my timeline, but I know I can get there. So it's shifting that to like see what they're doing, and I try to move it into more empowerment and inspiration. Because if I go in this spiral, I'm just reprogramming my subconscious to then keep myself down at this level as opposed to getting to that level.
Agreed. Mindset is everything.
I totally agree with everything you guys said. For me in particular, I feel like our generation is inundated with visuals of seeing what everyone else is doing. That didn't exist, back in the day. So it's almost like we have to be able to tune it out sometimes or shut it off sometimes and allow ourselves, like Lavinia was saying, like look at where you were versus where you are now and give yourself grace, because everyone's path is different. Everyone's timing is different. What's for you is for you. That is my favorite, thought to have. But it's real. Yeah, sometimes you're going to compare, but I do believe that comparison is the thief of joy. So if you are going to compare yourself, you should compare apples to apples, because the reality is someone's 10-year mark versus, someone's first year starting out, it's not going to be the same. So I believe it's really not possible to compare. And online, you're looking at people's highlight reels. You're not seeing everything else that they're dealing with. You're not there with them. So give yourself grace and just like take the path that was meant for you. And, your success based on where you were versus where you are now, that is real success. That is, you pushing forward.
I agree. I think that it's really important to just take it all in very small doses. And it's really just, how does it affect your mindset? Are you looking at it as if though it's something that you can achieve? Or are you looking at it as a comparison? Because when you compare yourself to someone else, you really don't know what their journey is. And it steals your joy in that moment. So you really have to kind of recenter your thoughts to be like, this is something that I can achieve. This is something that I can do. And, hope to figure out a way to elevate yourself to that point eventually when it's your time. So, all right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an incredible conversation again. And thank you for being a part of Unapologetically Professionelle.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.